Just harvested tomatoes, a whole bunch of them. I got cold last night. The stuff down here has such good tree cover around it that it doesn't really have a problem with these nights that are in like high 30s. But all the stuff up on the hill that gets full exposure started dying back, and I bet those tomato plants back there probably only have one more flush left before they will die back and won't produce and won't ripen up anymore. Left the sunflower sitting out here to dry. I didn't even think the frickin' mice. That flip and slide trap I've been using has been killing mice. I mean, every night I get at least a couple of them, and sometimes if I bait it fresh and nice and set it up right, sometimes I'll get like 6 of them in one night. So I've already caught, since I've got that trap 2 weeks ago, I've already got like, I don't know, 14 to 20 mice pretty much just here at the cabin, and then I got another like 6 out back when I put it out there for one night. But they ripped that whole sunflower apart. But I'll put the trap up here on the porch right next to this, and I'll put sunflowers on it tonight, and then I'll get whoever was getting into that last night. But yeah, a bunch of tomatoes. I'd say about 10 pounds of cherry tomatoes. So these are pretty much only good eating fresh. They're not really that good any other way. I mean, if you dice them up and can them, they're pretty good that way, just to add to chili and stuff like that. But they don't really make good sauce, and they really don't make the best salsa. But I'll make salsa with them sometimes. But I grow them because what they're best for is eating straight off the plant all summer. You know, so when you're working in the garden, you get hungry, you can eat these off the plant all summer, and that's what I do. So that's why I always grow so many. But I usually grow the Roma tomatoes for sauce and whatnot too. But I didn't do that this year. But next year I have a spot where I'm gonna do the Romas. I wanted to make some seeds this year too, and I didn't want any cross-pollination going on. So the seeds that I made last year, the 2 tomatoes were sitting right next to each other, so there could be cross-pollination. So all the tomatoes that I get seeds from this year, since there's only cherry tomatoes, the breed that I like, I shouldn't have any cross-pollination problems. Yeah, tomato harvesting. It's like September 16th or 17th, and it was in like 35, probably 36 is what I think it got down to last night. It got cold. I ran the stove until like midnight last night and let it die out. But yeah, fall is here. The leaves haven't started changing though, but I guess we've only had a couple cold nights, so I'm expecting it to get cold enough. Last night should have been cold enough to start pushing these maple trees to start flipping, but it'll be coming soon. I've been looking at chickens. There's a guy that's like 50 miles away from me, and he has 100 chickens that are only like a year and a half old that are laying eggs that he doesn't want anymore, and they're only $6 a piece, which is really cheap. Like pretty much people are getting $30 to $35 for an egg-laying chicken that's under 2 years old right now. So yeah, I gotta figure out how to get down to them. My car hasn't been running well, but I think I might try to take the trip and just get down there and get 6 birds so I can get some chickens in that coop for the winter. And then I'll have free eggs coming. Well, not free eggs, you gotta feed the chickens, but 6 chickens are probably only gonna be, well, I don't know, like 12 pounds a week. So a 50-pound bag would be like every 4 weeks or so. So that's not bad. That'll be pretty cheap. I mean, it'd be cheaper just to buy eggs at the store, but I don't have refrigeration, so I need unwashed eggs, which I can get from the neighbor. But the neighbor, he charges, it's like $6 for a dozen or something like that. I'm not really sure exactly what he charges. He usually gives them to me because I give him vegetables. But if I wanted eggs every day, I definitely would have to buy them. And yeah, it probably costs about the same as it does for me to raise chickens. So I need to just get on it. I've never been big on raising livestock. I always am afraid I'm not going to be able to keep them alive. I'm really good at keeping plants alive, and I like doing that. So I've never really gotten into animals. But I need to combine the two. Yeah, I have to combine the two to sustain out here. Saturday night listening to some Skinnerd. I didn't wait for the leaves to fall off. I cut the branches off of this stump and I've been digging at it all night and having a fire over here in the yard tonight. Truck going by though, of course. Yeah, so I'm just chipping away at this stump. All right, thank you, Lord. Just took the last cut. Deep root. This thing's all freed. Bring over to the fire pit and cut it up a couple times. And I'm just gonna fill this hole right now. But I'll be able to see it in the spring, obviously, as there's a hole here. So I'll dig it back up in the spring and put a bag of ground soil in there and put one of these new trees. I have an apple tree, even though it hasn't been producing very well, so I think the first things I'm going to buy are going to be the 3 pear trees. If I get 3 pear trees right here, in 2 years they should be producing if I buy grafted trees. There's a couple sites online you can buy these grafted trees and they'll pretty much start producing like a year and a half after you plant them. And it's like guaranteed to be the kind of apple you're looking for. So that seems to be the way to go. If I get them from the nursery, there's a chance that they might not even be the apple that they're labeled as. And those are usually grafted too. Even the ones from Walmart are usually grafted trees. But yeah, you kind of don't know how well those are going to do. And those trees are not an age where they're going to like produce for 3 or 4 years. Like this one company that I found, I can't remember the name of it. I'll try to remember it. Maybe I can put it in the description if I remember it. But there's a company that does these grafted trees, and they age the trunk, the trunk stem that they graft onto, and then they age the cut. And then when they put the cut on there, pretty much the next full season later, that cut will start producing fruit. So that's what I'm going to try to get. It's not so important with the pear trees, but with the apple trees and the cherry tree, I'm definitely going to go with those grafted trees. Pull this out, cut it up, put it in the fire pit, and then fill this hole back in. And then I don't know, I might decide to start digging this thing up, but I kind of trimmed it up and it's not really blocking so much of a view anymore. Animals can't really hide behind it anymore. So I don't know, maybe I'll keep it and dig it up next year. I'll wait until the leaves at least fall and decide if I want to dig it up. But I should probably just have like really good fruit trees, and these wild blackberries that I have here, these were already growing here and I just left them when I thinned everything out. These trees have to get like 30 years old before they actually produce blackberries. Like this one, that's a pretty thick trunk. That's got to be at least like, I'd say 12 years old, maybe 12 to 20 years old, that trunk right there. So this tree probably would have fruit on it soon. Like those trees over there, you can't really tell, but that trunk right there is a tree that produces fruit. And it's probably only another like 3 inches wider than this trunk. So this tree probably was really close to having fruit. But the fruit isn't even that good. Like I'd rather have like regular commercial fruit like what we usually eat than have these black berries. These black wild berries are really tart, and there's only a little bit of a flesh over a huge seed. So the chipmunks really love them. It's the only time I see the chipmunk climb the tree is when this tree is in fruit. That the chipmunks will climb all the way to the top of that tree to get the fruit. Like, he looks terrified when he's up there, but he's up there collecting fruit. It's hilarious. Yeah, beautiful day. So I keep working on pulling stumps. All right, out of breath as usual, but we're on to the next stump. And I had a fire with my neighbor the other night. Burnt most of this stump. And I also planted this green apple tree here. So, I don't know. I left these trees here in kind of a certain way because they kind of look Dr. Seuss and kind of cool once I cut them down. You know, make them shorter like I did this one. But this one was a little too short. And when animals come in the yard, it blocks the view from the camera. So I wanted to keep it because it has a thick stalk. I really think it's going to produce some wild cherries in the next couple years here probably. But I did cut it too short, so I'm probably going to have to dig that one up too. But I'm digging this one up, and then these holes that I make from digging them up, when you first dig up the stumps for the first 2 years, the root system that's left behind will pump a lot of water to that hole. So these holes are good holes to put other fruit trees in, because while those new fruit trees are rooting in, the roots from the old trees that you cut up will be pumping a lot of water from the surrounding area into that area still. Because like the thick roots you leave under the ground when you cut the stump away, those are all still living for at least a couple years. And they'll produce water and pull water in, but then they get to the end where you made the cut and the water just comes out, you know? There's no trunk there to feed the water to. So I don't know, I'll probably dig this one up today and then this one up tomorrow. Pain in the ass because it still has leaves on it. And then all these trees that I'm having problems with the brown tail moss, I'm gonna cut those all down so they're just a little taller than this one. You know, and then I trim all the branches and leave a puffy little tree top on it. And those look really nice like that. And once I cut these trees down short, they won't stretch. Like this one stretched a lot because it was getting a lot of shade, but this one gets a lot of sun, so it didn't stretch out. It stayed kind of like a ball, and it looks nice in the yard. So I'll keep these wild berry trees all planted here in the yard until I get all the fruit trees that I'm putting in here for an orchard. Once those start blossoming, then I'll cut out the wild berry trees. Once the apple trees and the pear trees and cherry trees start taking over, because I'm gonna plant 3 cherry trees here, 3 pear trees, and 4 more apple trees. And then all the bushes right here, we're gonna clear this too this fall. We're gonna probably clear another 1/4 acre in this direction here. So those are all alder bushes that I have to cut out of there. Once the leaves come off, they're not that hard to take care of. You just dig around them and then whack them out with the frickin' parang. I'm trying to take it easy on the parang because cutting out stumps is how I threw my shoulder out last year. If I do it right, it's not so bad, but I definitely feel the stress on my shoulder when I use that thing. So I'm trying to use my left hand and trying not to overdo it, you know. I'm gonna get this stump up today and then cut it up into wood and put it by the fire pit. And then in 2 weeks, all these leaves will probably be gone, and we'll leave an edge there, but then go back here probably another 50 or 60 feet into the woods. And that should be enough room for the orchard over here. And in the water, the ground stays wet here, but not so wet that it's like collecting or sopping wet, but wet enough that fruit trees won't need to be watered here. So unless there's a drought, but as long as there's not a drought, this area will get enough water that these fruit trees should just grow on their own. So yeah, now that the gardening is pretty much coming to a close, clearing land is what I do for the next couple weeks, and then I'll get back to firewood for about 3 or 4 weeks in October. And then the winter will come. We'll be locked in that cabin doing YouTube videos, and we'll be hunting too. Hunting season's coming. I want to get a deer this year, you know, I really do. I want to get one before my dad passes away. He's getting sick, and he's in his late 60s and he's not super healthy. So, you know, the only deer I've actually shot my whole life was when I was a kid, the first deer I shot. And he had me butcher it and skin it and everything with one knife. And I learned a lot about it, but I've never really had freezer space or the desire to shoot a deer. I hunt grouse and other things all the time, but I never really have gotten the desire to shoot a deer. But now that my old man's getting older, he would like it if I had gotten a deer on my own, you know? that's something my old man hasn't seen yet. So I don't want to let him down on that. So I should spend a lot of time this November in the woods trying to get this buck. It's buck only here too. And the bucks are weary in northern Maine. They're used to being chased, so they don't come out. Like, I have a buck that lives on the corner of my property out in the swamp, but he waits until a half an hour after dark to come out. He does not come out of that swamp before that. I'll probably have to chase him into the swamp this year, but my friend has a nice clear field. He's been mowing all year and has really nice grass and has clover on it. And I'm pretty sure this fall they'll be coming out there, and he said that I could hide behind his shed, which I usually do all my hunting in the woods on foot. So that's another reason why I'm not a very good hunter, because it's very loud the way that I hunt. You know, I don't sit a lot, and I don't usually use blinds and hide. But he said that I could use his shed as a blind. You know, I can open the door of the shed and stand behind the door, and it faces the whole field. So I have a .308 sniper rifle, so I can get in that corner there, and I should be able to take a deer no problem. It's not really the kind of hunting I usually like to do. You know, I've always hoped that I could sneak up on a deer and like get a deer in the woods on the trails. That was my hopes and dreams, but I think waiting on a field is how most of these guys get their deer, because the deers are so weary up here that you can't sneak up on them. You know, you really can't. So if you're a bow hunter, you need to be in a tree stand high off the ground and just sit there all day and night to get one. So I'll probably sit in behind his shed door and try to shoot one across the field this year, and then I'll have one, and whatever I can't fit into my freezer, my neighbor Joe said that he would take and put in his freezer. And he would just hold it there, but I'm going to let him have half of the deer. You know, I'll be able to fit half of it in my freezer, and I'll give him the other half, and he'll probably eat it. And if he doesn't, then I'll get it back from him. But yeah, clearing land, though, until hunting season starts. So that's what we're working on. Holy baby Jesus. That was quite a stump. If she's out, I'm going to knock all that clay off and let it stay in the hole. And drag it over to the fire. But then I'm gonna start this fire, start burning one of these stumps out. Gotta get these burnt out tonight. It's Friday night, so I always usually have a fire on Friday. Might as well be a stump burning fire tonight. I'm gonna knock that dirt off of there and get this hauled out of this hole and flatten this out. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be a big empty void in my life where this beautiful little tree was, but it's all right. This tree was not what we want. We're gonna plant a much better, more practical tree here. Cherry tree or a pear tree. It's gonna go right here. Probably a pear tree right here, because I think I am gonna dig that one up this year and plant a cherry tree there. Yeah, so anyways, I get to it. It's getting windy though. Might be too windy to have a fire, but it has been raining for 5 days and it's still dark and rainy. So I'm probably fine. She's a big one, that's for sure. Her roots go deep. Yeah, this hole is turning into a much bigger hole than I was hoping it was gonna have to be. But I'd say after I cut this one, and then there's like a stem here, but I think it's a pretty thick one too, but I think once I get these 3 or 4 cut around the edge, once I wiggle it back and forth, that main one might actually just pull out, because these put down a lot of roots, especially when they're bigger, but they don't put them super deep. Even when they're this big, they're not super deep, so that last taproot you can usually kind of pull up. Got a lot of leverage too. This tree's, you know, tall enough. I have some leverage here. So yeah, it's been quite a day. I mean, I've already been working on this for like 2 hours. But I'd say another 40 minutes and I'll have this done. Ain't nothing better to do. It's fucking cloudy today. Oh, excuse my language, but it's cloudy again. It's been like raining on and off for like 5 days now. I'm even gonna have to run the generator, the gas generator today, to charge up some of the batteries so the freezer stays frozen back there. Fall's the hardest time to keep the power on. Is in the fall, we just don't get a lot of sun here in Maine. And it's still not like cold enough that the freezer stays cold, so. Yeah, it's it's a pain. The spring is like that too, but the fall is definitely the worst, especially on like rainy years. And since it's a really rainy fall so far, if it stays rainy, we're probably gonna get a crap load of snow this year. So definitely gotta order some snowshoes. I can't put that off anymore. I'm gonna need them this year. Yeah, so I'm just digging this freaking stump up. Working on this big bastard. This is the one I was gonna keep, and after I cut all the leafage off, it's definitely way more open right here. But I'd rather have fruit trees. These black cherries, the animals love them, but I don't really use them for anything. So I'm just gonna clear this part of the yard up and open these holes up so I can put fruit trees in them in spring. Pear trees and cherry trees are the first ones. Those are good ones. Those are good ones to plant for Maine. But yeah, this one's a kind of a big beast. So it's gonna take a lot more digging. Probably about a third of the way done. But once I dig this big root that's going on here and cut it out with a bow saw, be pretty much there. But I have these maple stumps, and these maples are really hard to dig up. Like, you basically have to dig like a 9-foot wide hole to get these things up, and you're cutting roots the whole time, because it's just a big mat of thick roots come out of these maple trees. Because they have big leaves on them, you know, the wind really kicks them around, so they have to really get in there good. So they do. Maple is definitely the worst stump to remove, at least on my property. I think an oak stump is really bad too. Those stumps are pretty bad. That's an elm tree, and I was gonna cut that out, but it started growing again, and elm trees are actually kind of like, they're being eaten by some bugs, so they're going endangered here. So I'm gonna let that one go and let it go to seed if it will. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll end up stumping it in the next couple weeks. We'll see. I don't know. If I get a hair, I do want to remove that, because I want to put a cherry tree right there. That's like a perfect place for a cherry tree. So we'll see. But anyways, I got these stumps, which are going to be way too hard to dig up, so I'm at least going to start a fire on them. And I'll do one burn on each of them. One burn on each of them will probably get them pretty close to the ground, and it will stop them from at least growing anymore, because they keep on shooting off shoots and pain in the butt. But I'd like to dig them up. Hopefully when I burn them down, it'll burn down low enough that I can start mowing over here, because I haven't been able to mow this area right here. But we're gonna get those stumps burnt down, and then hopefully in the next 2 weeks these leaves are gonna fall, and we're gonna clear another, like, I don't know, probably another 60 by 100 section of this part of the property right here. See how thick it is. It's just a wall. So it's mostly alder bushes though, which are pretty shallow root system, so I can dig them up pretty easily. So we'll clear that, and there's nothing blocking the sun because I have a little field right here. So this will be a good place to put my I'm gonna put the rest of my orchard here, all the apples and some pear trees. And this should get really good sun there, and the water flows through here really good. It doesn't sit here, so it's not going to drown them, but it's pretty much wet here all year, you know, wet enough that I wouldn't have to water them really. So it should be a good place. Get this orchard going. Should have got it started 3 years ago when I first showed up. The orchard should be the first thing you do. Like, I was just working on the gardens, and I had an apple tree that was already on the property producing, so I didn't really worry about it. But I wish I did. All the trees that I planted 3 years ago at my mom's house have fruit on them now, and yeah, I wish I did. When you move to your new property, the first thing you do is clear a spot where they're going to get good sun and put your fruit trees in. You need to have your orchard established as soon as possible, because at the minimum, it's going to take you 3 years before you start getting reliable fruit off of those trees. Now I'm going to just keep on digging, chipping away at this dang stump. That's what fall's like for me though. The next 2 or 3 weeks I'll be doing stumps, and then I'll get back into firewood, and then we'll go into hunting season. So very seasonal life when you live off grid out in the middle of nowhere. Little baby snapping turtle. The cutest thing in the world. It's like a little rock. Looks like a little rock. Freaking adorable though.
Fucking prehistoric.
Yeah, he is. So cute. Well, it's Sunday, September 25th or something like that. Digging up stumps still. Got all that cleared out. Looks nice. I'm glad I removed that one actually, and getting a lot of ideas for this orchard that I'm going to be putting here. Look at how nice the ground is, the dirt around that stump. I knew this area stays pretty wet, not like standing wet, but like moist. And I could just tell the ground was really nice here. This was either part of the farm, or this might have been like where a mill was set up and they had like a big sawdust pile here for a bunch of years, because the soil's very different right here in this one area. It's like soil, not sand. So yeah, I gotta clear all this out, but I'm working on it. Got another 3 feet, or like a meter by 1 meter area pushed into this new space. And we're gonna do, you know, about 100-foot section of this out. Clear that out, and then this is gonna be the orchard. It's gonna be perfect. I'm burning these maple stumps too. I burned that one last, but these two bigger ones I'm gonna burn. This one's almost burned down. It's been a pretty good hot fire, so this one will probably be burnt down tonight. And if that fire will start burning, looks like it's kind of transferring over. I just dragged some of it over there because there's another, you can't really see it, but there's a stump under there. So once that lights and starts burning, I'll start piling stuff on that and hopefully get these stumps all cleared out, and this will be all grass next year. And I think that last apple tree I have is gonna go in this hole once I pull this stump up. I gotta do this stump, I do this tree, these trees, and yeah, there's probably about 10 clusters of stumps. They're trees right now, but when I cut the trees back, after the leaves fall, I'll cut the trees back, and then I'll have to dig up all these stumps over the next 3 months until the snow comes, or until the ground freezes. So yeah, a lot of clearing I have to do over the next couple weeks. I'm burning these stumps. Pretty much what I do at the end of September. Burning stumps, clearing land. I got all the potatoes and squash and everything put in their boxes and in a fairly cool spot. I don't have a root cellar, but I put it in a nice cool spot, and they should last me through the winter. And I want to save, obviously I want to save like 20 pounds of those seed potatoes, so I at least know I have some. But next year I'm going to buy a couple varieties that I usually don't grow. So I'm planning on buying some. But if apocalypse happens, you want to have at least 20 pounds of seed potatoes. That's a minimum per person. 20 pounds of seed potatoes over the winter. So if shit hits the fan, that next spring you can start planting potatoes, because you're going to need them. Well, this is probably 2 hours away, and then I'll move all this stuff over onto this stump, and then I'll just let the wind blow this stump to ashes. It's not that big, so I think this stump will be gone tonight. And then we'll do that one tomorrow night. It's pretty close to the ground, so I'm not too worried about it. But I just want to burn that one enough that it doesn't shoot any shoots. But these two I want to burn to the ground because I need to mow over here. Sunday night. Beautiful Sunday. I mean, look at the trees. They're all changing. It's freaking nice. So, Uncle Dave with DEECEE's Adventures. Loving it. Fallen Maine. Oh, been busting my balls and burning stumps. Those ones we burnt yesterday. Cutting down a lot of shit. Didn't wait for the leaves to fall, which I'm gonna on these big trees, but I just got impatient. So you can see this is where the line was, where the forest was. Now I've moved it all back into there. It's taking me 2 days to kind of get it gutted out and piled in the right places. Some of it's dead and can be burned, and some of it's green. But yeah, I'm gonna cut down a little bit more out, maybe like another 25 feet in that direction, and then it'll be all done. And when the leaves fall, we maybe cut these down, but I might wait until the fruit trees are here, so the ground doesn't get like full sun, because the ground is very alive and pretty nice right now. So if I cut everything out and then I don't put the tree cover back with the fruit trees, then the ground might lose some of its niceness. But yeah, just hacking away at this forest, clearing some spot, turning it into grass and an orchard. Gonna take me a while. Probably have another 4 more days of work before this is gonna be opened up the way I want it. Oh yeah, I'm just working on it. I don't have another fire though. These stumps didn't burn down. I mean, that's like a whole day of burning on those things, and they didn't even frickin' burn down pretty much at all. But they at least got hot enough that they won't put any shoots off. So that's what I'm gonna do over there. I gotta start that fire and get that going tonight. And then it will at least be hot enough that that bunch won't put off any shoots, because yeah, it's a pain in the ass cutting all those maple shoots down. You know, like cut down 3 trees and about 50 of those shoots come up. So yeah, just working in the yard. I think it's September 26th. Oh, decided to move the fire pit. So I got the metal barrel where the fire pit was, because I need to put some holes in the bottom of it and get that so I can start burning leaves and stuff at a higher temperature with less smoke. I moved the fire pit over here, got that stump burnt down today, and I moved the fire pit over here. Figured it was a pretty good spot because I'm gonna put a picnic table here pretty soon, and I have all these trees that you can hang lanterns on, so I was like, figured this would probably be a good spot to put the fire pit, and then when I'm hanging out here with family in chairs and stuff, we can have lanterns up in the trees behind us, you know. And maybe I could put some solar powered like yard lanterns, string lanterns maybe. Those look really tacky, but my grandmother used to have them in the camper up at camp when I was a kid. She had a camp that she would stay in all summer every year up on Tricky Pond, which was like crystal clear water. It was a spring fed lake, so the water was the cleanest in Maine. Kay's campground. So yeah, my dad used to DJ there every year, and that weekend we would go up every year and hang out for the whole week. And I always remember those lanterns hanging in the sun porch that's on the front of the trailer. Dang, it's starting to rain though. Man, my sister's coming up to visit, and it wasn't supposed to rain today. It's supposed to be nice, but it rained this morning for a little while, and it's raining right now. But I got that fire going. Probably can go hide inside for a little while. It should burn through this rain. It's only gonna be this one cloud moving over us, I think. But yeah, the fire pit's a little bit bigger, and I think that's a much better spot. It's a safer spot, and it's further away from the house, so I don't have to worry about the cabin. And yeah, we can put these tacky lanterns up, so that's what I should do.